Hi again, everybody. Welcome into an all-new episode of When the Game Ends. It's episode 29. Ben Holden, Mike Carmen. And Carmi, I don't know if you realize this, but a little bit of significance historically with our guest and a guy that just retired. This is episode 29, the same number of a former teammate of Ryan Malone. I know this is an easy one for you. You just finished playing in your neck of the woods, right?
Oh, Flurry. I was going to say, where are you going with this?
Yeah. I gotta try to get one in early on you, man. Good to see you, man.
Definitely got one in early there.
How are things, and how excited are you to chat with our guest today, Ryan Malone?
Things are good. I'm fresh off a trip to Florida, so it's my fault that we didn't record last week. Not showing it as much with my tan. I'm one of those guys, I burn more than anything. So the fact that I'm not looking like a tomato right now, I'll take that as a W. But yeah, looking forward to chatting with Bugsy. I've crossed paths with him over the years through various hockey events, never played against him per se, but just summers around here in Minnesota and things like that. And good storyteller, good character. I mean, anybody that's listened to any hockey podcast, I feel like he gets mentioned with his Bugsy antics. So looking forward to catching up with Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, 11 years in the league and amazing career with Pittsburgh and then Tampa, and played on the Olympic team, was a St. State Husky. I can give you a little bit of glimpse. I'm wearing a Husky shirt. You can't see it, though, but I'm just trying to support the team, man, as David Putty
Do you own a Gopher shirt, Benny?
I don't. No, they never gave me any gear. I've got all kinds of other leagues and teams, but no Minnesota.
We're going to figure that out.
I bought this first time I ever went to St. Cloud. Let's get to Ryan and bring him in here, and enough of our antics. Ryan, thanks for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to chatting with you, man. And what's Carmi touched on it a little bit. You guys got a little bit of a backstory, right? Together, you know each other.
Yeah, we crossed paths. I guess here and there, like you said, kind of in Minnesota from some different events. So some maybe back in the day I don't remember so well, but
I think the last one was pond hockey, but it's been a few years.
Yeah, the pond hockey was great. Yeah, that was 18. Is that the year 19?
It was before COVID, so yeah, it had to have been 18 or 19. That was
yeah.
That's quite the event.
That is quite the event. Yeah, U.S. Pond Hockey Championships. Actually, that year I went down and played with Iowa there for a few months, trying to make a comeback in case they needed some Olympic guys. So I came out of retirement that year, and then my buddies were playing in the pond hockey tournament. They're like, "Oh, do you want to play?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." So it's perfect ice for me to play on. Bad ice, everyone slows down. I get to use my size out there. But what a great event for the game of hockey, and everyone having such a great time there. They always do a great job.
We'll definitely touch on the 2018 comeback stuff, because I crossed past you then too when you were skating at over in Map South in the summer there. But yeah, Benny, this pond hockey, it's not hockey. It is a grind fest. He's exactly right. The bigger you are and the more space you can take up, the more likely you're going to do well out there. So it's a long weekend of hockey. You're sore for sure after. At least I was out of shape.
Oh yeah, you're definitely sore. I mean, because the ice is so bumpy, and you got to watch the cracks in the ice, the pond. So, again, I think anyone that enjoys hockey, it's a good competition. But it is interesting. That was my first year really doing it. So you forget the boards are only, a foot, 2 feet off the ground, and sometimes people are standing behind the box, the net, and it's like, hey, the pucks might be flying right at you, so at least pay attention. So no one got hurt, but I was kind of surprised at some people, not really understanding how the puck's coming in hot. So keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, no kidding. So Ryan, one of the things that we like to kind of get to early on and kind of set the tone is, our pod, when the game ends. Like, how did you know when it was time for you to hang it up, man, and your life in hockey as a player was over? Take us back to that and kind of walk us through the reasoning behind it.
Yep, I was in actually Hartford. I had a cup of coffee with the Rangers there, and I was actually having I feel like it went full circle. My dad played in Hartford, so I remember being a little kid, listening to the Brass Bonanza song.
Nice.
Skating around our little hallway with my brother as a kid. So to be there in Hartford, it was like middle of the year. We played, I think, Syracuse. Somebody was mouthing off to me I usually would just punch them in the face as many times as I could. And I just skated away and nothing happened. I'm like, oh, I just don't have that juice and fire anymore.
Hmm.
And kind of thought about it and then just kind of made that was the time. That was it. Mid-season. Just didn't have the fire and juice. Body was hurting, so it was kind of just time to let it go.
So when your career ended, you'd spent quite a bit of time in the NHL, and you didn't need to go work right away. But what was kind of your first thought or first steps when you got done? Like, because it sounds like it's pretty impromptu. If you're like, yeah, I'm out, I'm done, I don't have this anymore. So what was next for you?
Yeah, I wish, looking back, everyone's like, make sure you have that next step kind of ready or, start thinking about it. But it was always just thinking about hockey. So when I did retire, just kind of, spend some time with family and the kids. But yeah, definitely, kind of got lost there for a little bit. Minnesota is always nice golfing, but even going on, the kids' field trips and everything is like me and all the moms. It was just kind of like, what am what am I doing? So at that point, actually, in Wayzata there, I was a volunteer fireman for a year,
Hmm.
kind of looking for that team and, camaraderie and then, helping someone on their bad day. So actually like that was awesome to actually like learn really. I was like, oh, I'm learning like man skills now, to really help people out. At hockey, I felt like I wasn't very outdoorsy. I didn't know how to tie all these knots and certain things. So it was a great experience and a great group of guys, and definitely any first responder that are helping others is pretty amazing.
Did Ziegler
Is
get you into that?
Z did not, but yeah, I mean he was training me. Geez, I don't know, my whole career. So Z was always the fire guy. Man, he must be going on 25, 30 years there in Minneapolis. But
For sure.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, you're just looking for that team again and having the jokes, and again, like I said, really helping people on their bad day was really a privilege. So again, it was a cool to be part of that.
So
this is
Ben,
something?
real quick, Ben, hold
Yeah,
up real quick. So that guy
yeah,
we're talking about, Ziegler Z,
yeah.
he'd come into the weight room and every day he'd be telling stories about the big red truck. That was his thing. He'd always kick off the day or right in the middle of a session, just go on some story about the big red truck. So it made me think
Yeah.
of that when he said firefighter. But
Yeah, and he would come right from the truck to work us out at whatever 6, 7 in the morning. So he's on his
Hmm.
like third coffee, like he's an animal. But yeah, we had a great group of guys to train there in Minnesota, through Octagon, and Z was a big part of that.
So Ryan, I wanted to get to this later, but since you guys kind of brought that up, your family foundation, military and first responders. So was this foundation born then, or is this something that's more of a longer, deeper love affair for you and your family?
Yeah, no, it was just started September of 22. It kind of happened organically. Someone had an extra rink, like a deck hockey rink in Pittsburgh. Asked me if I could do anything with it, and I thought, of course, we could figure something else. We had like a ball hockey tournament honoring the Pittsburgh Warriors and their Warrior program, who I got to meet up in Minnesota at the Hendrickson Festival.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it started. Our family has had some people serve, so I was always very fortunate. Even when I was getting healthy scratched a little bit at the end of my career in those hard times, understanding it is just a game we're playing. So very fortunate I got to play it at a high level, and the commitment from our local heroes and our veterans is obviously the most important thing. We're lucky to have those people that are willing to put themselves on the line for us.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's great stuff. Is there anything else you want to share about it, or any other message you want to get out since we're on that topic now?
Uh, no, I think there's plenty of warrior programs that exist already through different communities in different states, and I mean that's been the powerful thing here the last few years with the foundation. A lot of people are getting on board, really supporting us, and we can't be more thankful for the other nonprofits we're working with. I kind of keep saying we're putting a badass team together for the good. Some of
Nice.
these other SEAL guys and Give a shout out to Tomahawk Charitable Solutions based out of Nashville. Some SEAL Team 6 guys that gave us our first kind of grant to put on that ball hockey tournament.
Sweet.
And everything. So we got the support of those guys. And I think everyone understands. I mean, even if you're human, everyone's dealing with mental health. But unfortunately, you look at the numbers for the military and first responders, and it's unfortunate that some people feel like that's their only choice. So if we can, showcase the game of hockey and bring people back into that locker room and community, and then through our signature program, our Warrior Hockey Academies, we do try to give them tools just as we got at training camp, talking about nutrition, sleep, really the whole mind, body, spirit practice to help you be the best person you can. So we can have, take on all these challenges kind of in a group setting where, everyone feels safe and can be themselves. So I think that's the important thing. I think especially in that veteran community when, you get isolated, or I mean, anyone that gets isolated, you don't sometimes forget the power of those others around you that notice maybe when you're having a bad day and can have a little talk or a little pep talk to encourage you a little bit. So you have that support system, which everybody needs.
Love that.
Yeah, and you were just up here recently doing the Hendrickson Foundation. They had a charity game, didn't they?
Yeah, we got to do like a half day of our Warrior Academy there. So I keep telling Danny and Darby, I'm like, they should be calling it the world's largest disabled hockey tournament in the world, because I think they have over 1,200 participants.
Wow.
They have 33 Warrior teams there. Then they have, how many sled teams? They have the blind hockey. So it's really impressive. But I mean, it's crazy because, the Pittsburgh Warriors is the kind of the first group I kind of got involved with. But then you have, Warrior teams in Alaska. I think there's like 8, Warrior teams in Minnesota. So it's interesting to see all these kind of different pieces. And I think a lot of these programs are, saving lives. So that's when you hear the stories, from one city and the next city, it's happening all over. So I feel, the hockey community, we can, support these programs that are making an impact.
Oh, Hendy's the best. I've been playing on a couple different pond hockey teams with him throughout the years. I was just texting with him a couple days ago. I was telling Benny before you got on, I've been skating the last couple years in the North Shore Inline Marathon up in Duluth. It's the same route as the grandma's one. But anyways, I told Hendy I wanted to raise money for them. I've been doing Children's Hospital the last few years. I was like, dude, let's get teed up with you guys and raise some money for that. Go work with those, more specifically with the hockey community a little bit. But I love what he's doing. It's impressive.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, Danny's actually dad was one of the first guys that started volunteering for the first Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Warriors were the first Warrior program ever started, and Andy Qualley is the guy that really got the program started there. So it started with one Warrior program in Minnesota. Now, there's over 50 programs through the United States. So it does show what an impact it is making and spreading. So it's pretty cool to see, how things have come so far.
For sure. Ryan, the sled hockey is, sorry, Benny. The sled hockey to me is crazy. Like, you watch those games, I'm like, they thought the stuff that we could do on skates was cool. The stuff they do is way more impressive.
They're insane. Yeah.
It is crazy. I mean, sparks are flying. They're going full on, hitting each other. They're letting all the aggression out. And then it's just amazing how it all works, with the blades and how they can maneuver, and then with the both sticks going, snapping it around. So it's crazy. I mean, some of those stories. Ralph de Quebec spoke at our first Warrior Academy there with Hendy 2 years ago. What an inspiring human, for all of us to follow and lead with. So it's great to meet so many of those guys as well.
So Ryan, is this what we're discussing here? Is this mainly what you're doing now in retirement, or what other things are you doing with your time, with your life to have that afterlife of hockey be as good as it can be?
Yeah, well, I try to make some time for the kiddos, squeeze them in there.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
some family time. But it was fortunate last few years to work with the Penguins and do some broadcasting, some pre and post game
Hmm.
shows, which was great. I did some stuff with Tampa, a little bit in the this year, so kind of doing that like broadcasting, talking hockey. But there's definitely some other, I think, opportunities. Working with maybe some current players. Uh, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Jeremy Clark. Have you heard of him up there?
I have not.
Mike, and when I was with Octagon there, he would help train back in the day, like John Scott, Bugard, Tim Jackman, a bunch of guys who'd come on the ice with us. And then we could go to his gym as well. Um, and actually, at the Hendy Festival there, we had him come in and did an off ice of hour of kind of like self defense stuff with the veterans there a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
But so he's known as a confidence coach. He's been working with the Kings for like over a decade, and it really starts with a mindset, but then learning the proper grips and certain situations to avoid or get yourself into. But he's done a great job with the Kings and really developing those guys. So I think maybe that seems like maybe a natural fit that I could maybe help out some guys. We'll give it a shot here down here in Tampa and see how it goes.
Nice.
You talk about that mental and like, confidence coach or whatever you want to call them, right? Like 15, 20 years ago, that didn't exist. And it's pretty wild to me looking back as you kind of think back on your career and different things you experience, how helpful it would have been to, have that psychological help, right? Or that sports psychologist or whatever it is, somewhere to reset you when you're in those dark days, no matter what it is, right? Like no matter what you're going through in your career. And like you said, you put it in perspective, right? In terms of for you that work, you thought about the military aspect and you already having helped as first responders and realizing that, hockey's just a game, right? And that probably helped you level out a little bit. But for a lot of guys, you going through the highs and lows of your professional career and having someone help you reset so it doesn't get worse and worse and compound, right? I mean, it's incredible. And it's something that seems like every team either has or will have shortly.
Yeah, I think I remember back in the day they kind of had, like therapists in there, but everyone was like, "Oh, if you went to her, then everyone knew you're struggling," kind of. So
Hmm.
I like the way Jeremy kind of says as a confidence coach, and like you said, that the mindset is such an important role. And then diving in the last 2 years, with the mental health side, really understanding the science behind it all. But it really starts in the mind and the stories you're telling yourself. So, lots of good information out there. Just got to dig in a little bit.
What did you do in those situations when you were? I mean, I'm sure you went through plenty of them, right? The ups, the downs, you're hurt, whatever it was, your healthy scratch, like you said, late in your career. Like, how did you deal with that? How did you process all that when you were playing, Ryan?
Yeah. Well, I remember my dad, he played at a different time.
Yep.
But if I needed a slump buster, he's like, there's nothing wrong with playing a little guilty.
Nice.
Or you keep it simple, you go to the
Yeah.
net, finish your checks, but
Love that.
yeah. No, I think at the end of my career, too, I think my ego got in the way. I was still kind of young. John Cooper was coming in Tampa.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't see eye to eye on a few things. I felt like disrespected because I was like the veteran and all this stuff. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it was just my ego that I should have set aside, for the betterment of the team and everyone. But looking back, I handled it as best I could with the tools I had. So, but like we're saying, like if you had someone to kind of lean on and talk to in those situations, really, and kind of understand the big picture of things a little bit on your own path, it could help calm you down and settle you down to, make some maybe different choices.
So you
I
told
don't
us a
think.
minute ago
Go
you're
ahead, Ben.
doing some broadcast stuff with Tampa, so that clicked in my brain. Like, how are you and Cooper now?
Oh, we're great now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I told him, Yeah, I told him I was going to punch him in the face after one game in Winnipeg. I fought Mark Stewart. He
Okay.
ran someone on our team. The night before, I fought like Wes Garth, I think.
Oh boy.
And just because he ran our goalie, and then he's like, oh, and then he was like, why'd you fight him? I'm like, what? Are you watching the game? Like, I just, and then the Winnipeg game, I ended up fighting Stewart, and then I got benched the whole, like the rest of the second period, third period, pretty much. And with a minute left, they threw whoever on the ice. He's like, Bugsy, go get out there. I was like, my skates are untied. Like, fuck off, I was just gonna lose it because I was like, I go out and do something, for the team, and then like you're not gonna like throw me on the ice like again until the end. So I just felt that was my first time I felt like just a meat roll, I guess, or I'm not sure how to say that.
I got you.
But
that works.
But the next day, I called Stevie Y. Stevie Y, great GM. He always had like our little leadership group. So if we had to trade Steve Downey, Mike Smith, he kind of brought us in to let us know, what was happening. He's like, hey, this is the worst part of the job, but he shot it straight, and I respected him for that. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to punch John Cooper in the face tomorrow at practice. He's like,
what was his reaction to that?
Yeah, he's like, no, you can get suspended if you do that in practice. Like, he was all worried, but I was just telling my agent, I was just saying that. So hopefully, they would try to move me to, one of the teams I was asking to move to. So,
right.
But no, it's all good. That's under the bridge now. So it's all good with Cooper.
That's great. Awesome story, man. That's incredible. I love that.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on something you brought up. I don't think people understand, they think, oh, like, you're whatever level of hockey you're playing professionally, whether it's AHL, NHL, whatever, and you complain or you bring it up like, oh, I got scratched. And they're like, who cares? Like, you're still getting paid. And it's like, that's not the point. Like the point is it's a shot to the ego. For some of us, like myself personally, Benny, who's responsible for my first benching as a healthy scratch was Quinny.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. I'm sure that
60 some games into my rookie year, and I get randomly scratched for one game. And so we'll bring that up with him when we have him on. But no, it's something that it's really hard to adjust to if you're not used to that or ready for that. I mean, that you talk about a big shot mentally and a hurdle to get over and not let it drag you down or have you be negative because you still got to be a team guy. All that stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think the first time I scratched Michelle Therrien came into Pittsburgh. It was like after the lockout. And that first year, like we finished, I think, dead last with Mario and whatnot. So it was still kind of old school back then in 2004. So we were like going out quite a bit. So, he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, fuck, like you gotta, straighten up. Otherwise, we'll put you in the seats. So he ended up putting me in the seats for a few games. So it was a good wake-up call, again, to just kind of look in the mirror and reflect and kind of man up. So, it was always, everything that's usually that's happening is happening for a reason, right? If you look at it as a positive side. So, you always try to take that positive. So when you are watching or whatever it is, you remember that feeling. So when you're at practice or in the gym, you have that extra juice to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I'm glad you went to the Penguin stuff because we were going to get there at some point, but I'll just segue right in there and kind of get into this with you. Like the list of guys that you came up with is mind blowing. I mean, there's Hall of Famers around you everywhere, starting with Fleury, who I mentioned in the open, Sidney, obviously, Malkin, and you were with Kucherov, I believe, for 1 year. My opinion, the guy will be in the Hall of Fame, but nevertheless, more importantly, the Pittsburgh stuff. The first question I have is, how much did it mean to you being a Pittsburgh guy, born and raised there, having a chance to play there? Your dad played there. What did that mean to you when you look back on it now, Ryan?
Oh, I mean, amazing. I mean, it's looking back the whole ride, you never just thought you'd actually make it as a kid, right? You're watching it on TV. I was fortunate to, be a rink rat, all those guys that you're naming, my dad really drafted. He was the head scout there. So from Fleury, I mean, way back to Yager, I remember Dad traveling over to Czech to watch this guy, and he was always talking about him. He's like, oh, this guy's doing like 1,000 body squats a day and all this stuff. So I'm like, I'm 15, 14 at the time. So I'm trying to like, learn and do some of this crazy stuff. But yeah, I think, from being in that locker room though, seeing even Brian Trottier, he had a son my age. Craig Patrick had a few kids kind of around my age. Eddie Johnson, same thing. So we had a great crew, around the rink to play games. And then, looking back, as you said, through high school, Trots was, even driving me to the rink for high school practice. And I think they just had so much fun. Like in the locker, I remember the music and the pranks and all this stuff. But they're working hard. You see them work hard, but they're not having all this fun. So I just think I really fell in love with that locker room, and was willing to work at my game. And no matter where I went, I just loved hockey. So I never knew where the end journey would take me. That's what I kind of remind some of these parents is like, NHL is a great goal, but it is the 0.02%. But you can still go travel the world and play a game, and go to some great countries and really check it out all by just falling in love with the game. So I think that's important too. It's really the kids. As coaches, I know sometimes get a little crazy at the younger ages especially, but our job is just to teach that passion for the kid to fall in love with it more at the end of the day. It's not life or death. Some of these, on whatever team you're on and all this stuff, it gets, as we all know, it gets a little crazy.
Yep.
You got to enjoy the journeys.
Yeah, I mean, it gets so intense. You guys, like, I remember I co-head coached 1 year in Minnesota there for my son's team. Man, it was in-house, very low-key, rotating positions, and it was an eye-opener, just because everyone thinks their kid needs to be on the best team and whatnot, and there wasn't even hitting at this time. And I was just like, well, Timmy, at the end of the year meeting, I'm like, well, Timmy has a mustache over here, and Johnny's 50 pounds. And they're laughing, but I'm like, exactly. Like, it doesn't, like, it's all going to even out at the end. The kid, whoever, like the kid hasn't even been hit yet. Like, he's going to have to go in the corner to the guy that's 6'6" and go get the puck. Your guys are in the stand. So, like, they have to love it to really go through it, So, that's just, my 2 cents on that.
What's funny about that too. I think it was one of the guys on Chicklets. I don't remember who, but he said, "Yeah, talk to me when your kid gets interested in girls and has his first beer, and then we'll see what kind of player he is."
Merles, yeah,
So, was it Merle?
18, 19, yeah. Or yeah, Canada 18, 19. Have your beer, have a girl. Yeah, see how their priorities change. Yeah.
Right. So, well, speaking of journeys, though, how did you end up in St. Cloud then? Pittsburgh kid ends up playing in St. Cloud State.
Through my dad, like 15, 16, as I mentioned, my dad, after he retired, was part of the Penguins organization there. So Herb Brooks was around. Yeah. And Herb Brooks helped start the Minnesota hockey camps up in Nisswa with like Chuck Grillo. So, I put in my time there and, kind of bounced around I was very fortunate to get some offers to go to some different colleges. I remember going to like Michigan State, BU and BC. I go, my dad, I'm like, they have nicer stuff than the Penguins. Like, I was like, what is going on? Because I was just blown away at the stuff. I remember Wisconsin too. It was just like amazing, the facilities they had. And then for myself, I knew it was between really North Dakota and St. Cloud. And I knew for whatever reason, like St. Cloud, I know they had Olympic sheet. I knew I had to like work on my skating. And then Herbie actually started that program. I'm not sure the date he started the St. Cloud program, but he came up with a logo there, kind of mimicking the Canadians and stuff. So ended up just picking St. Cloud, and it's been 4 years there.
Well, speaking of North Dakota and the tie, Kevin Spiewak was a teammate of yours, and he went to North Dakota. And Carmi, I forget who told you, Carmi, but you really didn't play for Mike Hastings because he was an assistant. we both know Hasty very well, Ryan. I've done a ton of his games over the years.
Yeah.
So you got to have some kind of story in the vault, man, about playing for Hasty.
Oh, he was. I just remember tough as nails. I mean, it was great. No BS. You know, he's dealing with a bunch of teenage boys, so he had to lay the law down. And I remember one morning, it was either because of our effort or something like during the game. The next morning, we had to like run the stairs at the rink. I don't know how long we're going for. And then like Jed Ortmeyer's like, I'm going to take one for the team and just fall down these stairs. And Jed, he ended up like falling down the stairs and they ended up like stopping what we were doing. But yeah, Hastings was a great mentor for myself to kind of, again, you know, have fun, but keep it in between the lines a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's had great success as a junior coach and college coach. You know, that speaks for itself. So it shows what a great man he is and coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get. Like when Ben was talking about it, he came to the U when I'm my junior year with the Gophers and was assistant coach before he went and took the Mankato head coaching job the next year. So I only had him for 1 year, and I had him as an assistant. And from my understanding, I got a very different side of Hasty.
Who told us that? I'm trying to think who that
Omaha.
was. Forgot who it was, but
Lamoureux?
anyways.
Did Lamoureux play for him?
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been him and Christo. But anyways,
there's been a lot of guys that have played for him. But yeah, and I was like, I had the best relationship with Hasty. He's the man. And then I heard all the stories. I'm like, yeah, I didn't really get to see that side of him.
Yeah.
No, he's a good man.
That's
Great
cool.
Guy.
Back to the Pittsburgh stuff, man. So Crosby's rookie year, you play with him, and I mean, one of the things I like to ask at the end of the pod, and I won't ask it here because I'm sure I know the answer, like best player you played with, best player you played against. The best player you played against will be interesting. I'll ask you that later. But like when Sidney Crosby came to the Penguins, you're on his line, man. Like that's got to be one of your career highlights, I would think, right? Playing with a guy like that. What was it like playing with him?
Well, I was fortunate enough to play with a guy named Mark Lemieux too.
Oh, you did play on a line with him. Wow.
And him and John LeClaire.
Okay.
So you mentioned some of these guys, and
Yeah.
Recchi was around. So yeah, I was surrounded by some amazing players and humans. So, but I think the pinch to me was Mario, because you're like, watch him in practice, like who's gonna hit him in the one-on-one down the D? Like
Nobody.
Well, here's what he do. Remember old school one-on-one, like forwards are on the goal line, D are on the hash mark, you know, just straight down one-on-one, like wait to the blue line to like kind of angle. So I was always curious. I'm like, what are they gonna do with Mario? He goes down his contact. So he's a big righty. So if the D-man just kind of gave him space, he would just take a slapper, you know, from the outside. But once he saw that D-man cross over, that's when he would wait for their feet to make that move. Then he would hop right around. He danced Drake Berhowski, I don't know how many times in a row. He's like, well, we'll just give him the shot to the outside, I guess. But yeah, it was cool to see him kind of just you know, work things in practice, even like kind of half moon in practice. He'd be the guy passing sometimes. So instead of throwing it from your heel to toe with that spin, he would spin it back the other way to you. So then like your shots, you know, all over the place. So
Man.
But that was super cool to play with him. And obviously, you know, seeing Sid at camp, you know, we talk about McDavid now. That was kind of like, wow, this is another level of explosiveness for an 18-year-old. Like he's obviously been dialed in for a few years before that with his training and nutrition. So to have that opportunity, play with Sid and Rex there for a little bit. So that was you know, a great opportunity, and you just learned so much from these guys, their day in and day out habits. We talked about that mindset. You know, and it goes to speak volumes. That's why we were talking about the broadcast in the Penguins. I talked to like Colby Armstrong, Max Talbot after the game. Our stomachs are in fucking knots because it's like we're watching Sid and Gino and Tanger. If like the boys are down, need some energy, it's like they're the guys still leading. And I don't think some of the, you know, the younger guys realize how amazing his career has been and how long it's been, and to be able to sustain that over time is, you know, there's only a few that can do that, you know, at that level. So it makes our stomach sick sometimes watching, because it's like, fuck it, let's just like, yeah, just like how could you show up in the locker room when you know they're going all out, and like you show up, you're like, no pims, no hits, no nothing. I'm like, what are you bringing to the table then? I don't know. The game's kind of changing, but still, I'm like, still hockey at the end. It's a man's game.
Yeah.
Watching Florida, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to win a Stanley Cup, I mean, that's where you see Sid, Gino, Tanger. That's where there's that whole other level of, are you willing to fight for it? Like, how bad do you really want it? Some guy, well, so I think that's where they are willing to do whatever it takes to win, in that capacity, and what great leaders they are. And again, just how I think Sid treats everybody. It doesn't matter if they're a player or just a worker at the rink. That goes a long way, and he especially knows, come crunch time in the playoffs, you're going to need everybody. Guys that are up and down. It's a full team. You got the trainers and the equipment managers. So I mean, it's just he's got a great mind. I'm just going to be more excited and happy for all the goals he's crushing. So it's been fun to watch.
Well, I was going to ask you the question about his durability, but you just brought up the Panthers and game six, as we're recording for everyone. Game 6 is tonight with Panthers Oilers, and man, is that the biggest difference in that series. You talk about guys going to the mat for each other. Edmonton's got a lot of top end talent, right? And they've got a few guys that are role players, but you don't see all 12 of their forwards digging in the way Florida's do. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's where I think everyone was surprised the last few games, just the response. And that's where I know Kane kind of took maybe a few penalties. Maybe the coach kind of put him, in the doghouse a little bit or something. I think but that's where, I mean, it's that mind we're talking about, like on that edge. You got to play to that edge, but you also be like, oh, someone punches me in the face, I might just have to take it for us, to win. So it is that finding that, common ground. But yeah, it has been surprising, to that extent. I mean, there's still maybe time for Edmonton, but I mean, in Florida, they better be ready, because the last few starts, you don't want those jumping out to a lead again, I don't think. And then that's all she's wrote.
Yeah, if they're chasing the game again in game 6, if they're down 2 or 3, I think that's way too big of a mountain at this stage. Don't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where, like, you can have the best 2 players in the world, but if you have 5 guys buying in on the other side, like we look at the 4 nations, what a great for hockey. But again, the defense is going to end up winning most of the time. Even, after McDavid, I think, scored the game winner in the 4 nations, like, oh, I wasn't that good, but I ended up, scoring. But he's like, there's no room for you to be good, because there's a stick length away from you. I mean, that's where I don't even think he realized that there isn't room, So there's that collective. Again, I think that's why hockey, as you know, is the hardest trophy to win. But it's that team mentality, and those 5 guys on the ice together, working together, can really, shut down whatever you want, So
all right, I got one for you. Sorry, Carmen, I got one for you, because we're on the Cup Final. You played in one Cup Final, right, in 07-08?
Yeah,
I was in the building for that, and Talbot scored. I was 10 feet away from going on the ice. I worked the international feed with Dave Strader and Joe Micheletti, and you guys scored. I literally rooted for Pittsburgh in game 6 because I was booked on game 7, but it never happened. Anyways, I digress. But a couple things I didn't know that I read today, and I want to hear your take and your stories on these. Game 1, Cronwall hits you, you break your nose. Game 5, you take a clapper from Hal Gill to the face, bust you all up. Of course, you're a hockey player. We know you're tough as nails. We know that. You came back. What do you recall from that experience in the Cup Final, getting to play in that one, Ryan?
Yeah, I think just that whole playoff run, I think from being a kid, as we talked about early on, 13 years old when the Penguins won the Cup in 91 there, being in the seats with my brother with the old Jaws signs and the Hay song, to then being a player and trying to bring a Stanley Cup to the city was that whole run was amazing, especially beating Philly to get into the finals there. And then Cronwall, I'm pretty sure we're on the power play, and he does his thing, top of the circle in our own end, just hits me shoulder right to my face, busts my nose. I just remember, though, getting up skating to the front of the net. 'Cause one of my goals was to score with like a bloody face, for like a sick
For
thing.
effect.
That was yeah. You busted my nose, and then in Game 5, I would say I'm fortunate that Hal Gill has a muffin. And he kind of hit me with a knuckle puck. That was kind of just flat against my face, so it kind of just broke my nose and then chipped some teeth here. So, yeah, that is what it is. I think I think as we talk about that hockey mentality, you have one chance to win Stanley Cup and get your name on there that you dream about as a kid. So, all the broken bones and stuff will heal. So, that's what it would take.
You talk about the mentality. You brought it up earlier too, and that's what the question I was going to ask was. The game is changing, right? It's becoming more skill oriented. It's way faster, and that's all great. But as we're all discussing here, the grit and the determination and the battle level, in order to do whatever it takes to win, all these kids now, they do so much skill work, right? All the skill videos you see on YouTube and Instagram. And, if you're going to go into that industry and you're going to be kind of, similar type of role where you're working with people about the mental side of the game, how would you coach that back into guys a little bit? Some of it, people say you're born with it. I think you can still teach it at a young enough age, but that extra drive, that compete, that you're starting to see it come back out of some of the guys, a little more old school hockey, like a Bennett, for example, like in Florida. But how would you teach that? How would you instruct guys coming up that are trying to make it?
Well, I think you just want the tools for yourself to feel safe and excel. So I think, first thing, as we know, if I'm going to go to the front of the net and it's a defenseman, I just say, I'm going to break your face tonight, or I'm going to run you through the wall, whatever I say. He's all scared and turns away. He's like, well, I'm probably going to have a little extra space on the ice. I already know I got this guy kind of beat, So I think even that challenging and kind of building that asshole maybe, or that maybe not the right word, that
no, it's an appropriate word.
Yeah, you want to, because you want to be on that edge, as we say. You don't want everyone to feel comfortable around you, and like if you do have to drop the gloves, maybe there is again, you understanding how to grab on where it's just even safe. Like nowadays, it's not like you just stand there and toe to toe like back in the day, like Ryan Vandenbush or anybody. But
there's a name from the past. Wow.
Punch in the face contest. This guy's an animal. But you at least then, like as my dad always said, is like you just got to show up to the fight. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, really, And that's where people always go back to the Talbot, the quiet thing. Even though he lost the fight, it was like, yeah, but people don't realize like Cursillo was a killer, and Max was stepping out of his comfort zone, for the boys. And that's all that mattered. I got all the boys fired up, because it wasn't Max's regular, job to do, but he was willing to put himself in that situation for the team. So then everyone's all right, let's rally around that. So I think, you just kind of build it, with your own obviously self-belief and confidence, but understanding that you're willing to battle, as long as it takes. And that's where, when you don't have that pushback, as we talked about with Edmonton, sometimes it's very eye-opening, because you're like, man, these other dogs just want it more. They're willing to do what it takes. And if you have all 5 of them going out at a time, rolling over, it's tough to handle, for 60 minutes. So it's you look at Vegas, the way they're built and had success. It's a collective mindset of, hey, I'm gonna maybe take a little shorter shift. So we pin the D in, and the next set of line comes out, fresh guys. Everyone in the playoffs is, no one cares who scores on the team, as long as your team scores. So, you're willing to make those other maybe sacrifices for the greater good too. So, but I think at the end I think every man, you should learn some type of self-defense. We talk about after the game. I got into jiu-jitsu after hockey. And that was the first time I really had to just focus on my breathing to understand, okay, this person's trying to strangle me or break my arm. I can't panic. That's going to make it worse. Because like in a street fight, there's no time limit. So you got to remember, I got to breathe. Otherwise, like hockey, you're tapped out that first minute. It's like, you can gas out and I'll take advantage of you then. So I think, it helps with your own confidence and belief in yourself. You walk in your room, you can handle yourself. So I think some of these guys, especially guys that are up and down, we mentioned the Penguins a little bit in their development. Actually, who just hired my cousin Brad Malone, an assistant coach in Wilkes-Barre.
Saw that.
Pickup.
We both know
I
him
know.
well.
I played with Brad in Lake Erie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great. So I guess I was talking to him like in Oshawa,
Yeah.
you know, he had a good run there. He was mentioning, he was showing guys like after practice how to just grab on and hold. It's not necessarily you go out and, you know, we're not, you know, changing the game or anything, but it's giving that individual confidence. Hey, if I do get in something, yeah, I can be safe and not get hopefully, you know, hurt, you know. So, but we're on a little rant there, I think, but
No, that's all good. Well, while
We
you're on
want you to rant.
while you're on the subject of like fighting and punching guys in the face, man, you mentioned I know Ryan Vanderbush from a podcast I did with him a few years ago. But my Big Ten Network partner knows him really well. He did his games in junior. You mentioned him, but you mentioned Westgard. I mean, who are some of the guys that were the hardest you had to drop the mitts with in your time in the league, man?
I mean, Mike Rupp hit
Rupp?
me with Mike Rupp
Okay.
he split me here, and under here, 50 zippers.
Wow.
One punch.
Oh my.
And this was after you guys
Holy
probably
shit.
remember the Tarian rant
Oh yeah, of course.
Stop.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
and all this stuff. So the next day, I think we're playing like Columbus. We're like, oh, and whatever on a little skid. And he's like looking around the room. He's like, you know, some guys have tattoos and think they're tough in here and all that shit. This is back when guys didn't really have that many tattoos. So I was like, oh shit, you know. He's trying to give a rah-rah speech. We're starting like an East Coast goalie that night has like battled his way up, and I just remember we're getting kind of shellacked again. And then I asked Rupper, who I skated with actually up at that Brainerd camp, Minnesota hockey camps, to fight. He's like, really, Bugsy? I'm like, yeah. So we square off, and he like landed jab that dazed me, and then just one right. And all I remember is on my knees, I like throw a punch, and I like hit the ref in the back.
Oh boy.
That's all I remember. I go, and that's when I go, Dad, I think I need to go learn how to fight because I don't think I'm helping my team by getting my shit beat in. But yeah, that was a big wake up call for him. Other guys, I mean, other guys I would stand up for. I mean, Riley Cote was not even a fight because he had his gloves off so fast, his left was coming, so it was a quick turtle position to save my face, I thought, on that one. But yeah, the Rupp one got me the worst.
What about the other direction? Like who did you get? You get somebody like that in your time when you had to drop them?
I've got a few guys. I've you know, knocked out a few guys, broke a few faces, I guess. So I don't even name their names or anything.
That's fine. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Classy guy.
Fair enough. Carmi?
Took some beatdowns, give some beatdowns, right?
Yeah, understood. I get it.
Well, I'm gonna switch away from Ryan Malone the Goon and go to Ryan Malone the Olympian. So
Yeah.
2010 Olympian, I beat you to the punch, Benny. Actually, before we go to that, Bugsy, was the goalie who you're talking about that came up from the East Coast League, was his last name Curry?
It was either
Was it
Curry
John?
or Sabern.
Oh, said Danny Sabrin too. I played with him at
Yeah.
Hershey, but no, because I remember Curry being out here with Golly one summer, Goligoski, and I want to say it was that same season that you're talking about, but I could be making that up. It's a long time ago. But I was trying to
He was
one up
always
Ben.
young.
He's always the fat guy.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so Olympics 2010, Vancouver, right? Was that? Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So did you have a good inkling that you were making the team? Was it a surprise? Kind of talk to us about that experience.
Nope, I wasn't sure I'd make the team. We had a good run, obviously, like with the Penguins there in my role, you know, there kind of as a power forward. So I knew, you know, maybe that role would be something the U.S. would want. I got invited to like the big 50-player camp. Remember getting a T-shirt and had kind of like it's actually on my arm here. The T-shirt we got has like the wings and the Sacred Heart, the 1776, all kind of American
Cool.
represented. We got it on a T-shirt. I'm like, man, if I make the team, I'm getting that tat. So
Nice.
so that was just an amazing opportunity. Like I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever be able to play in the Olympics and represent our country. And then, you know, Sid doing Sid things, I guess. So that is the way the cookie crumbles. But it was a great experience. We had a great team, great group of guys. And I mean, even that game, We lost. We beat them earlier in the round robin, and we didn't play as good in this game. We actually thought we controlled the game better and could have a better outcome, but it is what it is, and I was very honored to wear the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I remember that game. Obviously, I think Benny, I'm sure, does too.
But
your old teammate doing you dirty.
You guys were playing that day because I went to the rink, the Q in Cleveland. I said, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to look at any social media. And then I look up at the end of the first intermission on our giant Jumbotron, and they're playing the game. I'm like, well, shit, there goes that. But we played
We were
that
watching
day.
the game too, Benny.
Yeah, I know. We played that day, or you guys played
No,
that
Benny.
day.
So Benny, I wasn't with Lake Erie yet. I was still in college. So I was actually watching that game at the bar.
That's right.
I remember specifically because I won't name the name of the bar to throw them under the bus, but they had just reopened and they were dead, and it was a Sunday, and our whole team came in. And I'm pretty sure we got half the staff fired because they were giving away free stuff to us the entire day and letting underagers come in for the day. And we had a great day watching the gold medal game. But the next weekend it was almost completely different staff and a new set of rules in the place. So
here's one for you. So Ryan is now the second guest from that team, and I believe you played with him in Pittsburgh as well, right, Ryan? Paul Martin.
Paul Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never played with them, I don't think, on the same team.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I thought you played with him in Pittsburgh, no?
Oh, no, we missed each other there.
Oh, that's right. He was in New Jersey. Then he came to you guys.
Yeah.
But he was on that Olympic team. I don't know if he played, but he was part of the team, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right.
I like that. Benny got stumped. That makes me happy.
But talk about another great person doing his Shine the Light Foundation.
Yeah, we've had him on. Yeah.
Give a shout out to Paul.
Yeah, we had him on a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good,
awesome.
Really good stuff.
Well, yeah. Ryan, so we get near the end here and down the stretch, man. I mean, this has been incredible. Love your stories, and it's just been great getting to know you and talking with you and you sharing your story. You kind of mentioned you didn't really have a plan. I mean, we get that. I don't know, Carmi. I'd say it's probably 50-50 with the guests we've had and almost 30.
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody that, maybe they got 2 years left in their career?
Benny, hang on. Before you ask him that, we have to talk about his comeback where he didn't play for 2 years after this Hartford game he's talking about. And then he made the comeback to play with the Wild, with the Iowa Wild. And
trying to make the Olympic
year.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what brought that decision about.
Okay, let's go there.
And then we'll answer. Right. I think we need to go there first in chronological order here, Benny.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think 2018, I think I reached out to JJ Johansson, even hey, if you need help selecting the team or any roles or whatever, I was just kind of looking for something to do. He's like, well, shit, we're not taking any NHL guys. Are you still in shape? I was like, yeah, actually I feel pretty good. So my two boys were a little older. So I called Cliff Fletcher, who I knew from the Penguins. He was just the Wild GM at the time, and asked, hey, you mind if I go down to Iowa and, try out or whatever you like, sign on for a month or two, however you, see fit. He's like, oh, actually, why don't you come to Wild Camp? And I'm like, it's 6 weeks away. I was like, ugh. I was like, well, sure. So, and then I was training there, and then I was using that ARP machine that some of the mini.
That's when I saw you. You were doing the crazy ARP stuff.
Yeah, you put the electric patches on you, and you kind of just shock yourself as you're doing through the movements. So
it's nuts, Benny.
It's an interesting way to train, but I definitely felt great. Even after the Wild Camp, I had a great camp. I mean, probably because I was definitely sober at the time as well, so that probably helped. But I had a good camp. I'm like, shit, I feel like I can make the Wild team. Ended up passing their skating test, and I was just going for it. But anyway, long story short, sent me down to Iowa, played for a month down there, went over to Germany, did some USA tournament over there,
Deutschland
Cup, and then came back and kind of just retired. They ended up picking some of those college guys, Greenway and Donato, for some of those extra roles in the Olympics. But for me, it was great. My son was like, well, aren't you mad they didn't pick you? I'm like, Like, not really. I was like, I mean, I was like, I'd be more mad if I sat on the couch and I'm watching the Olympics saying, oh, that maybe shoulda, coulda, when I actually,
Mhm.
got after it too. So I think my boys actually saw me, get after, training, twice a day and really, putting the time in, to try to make it. So it was just good for them to see that because they kind of saw the retired dad and they're not. I'm like, this isn't real life, like what you're seeing. You got to do your got to work for it. So it was good in that perspective, to give it a shot again. Actually, I loved every second of it. On the bus with the guys, great group of guys down there. Geez, I think my first two games I was in two fights, which I wasn't expecting, but I'm like, oh, it definitely felt good. It was like 3 years of pent up frustration. It was definitely one thing you miss about the job. When you have a bad day, you can just go run around and hit people. Uh, but no, that was great. It was a great time. And I mean, Iowa Wild and um, Leopold, the owner for the Wild, does a great job, trying to support and understand the development uh, they got going on there. And I think they're building something great. They brought in Matt Hendricks as the GM. Great human, good character guy, gets it. So things are looking promising for the Wild in the future.
Yeah, Benny, this ARP thing, they would train at the rink where I was coaching at. There was a full time like year round hockey training program there that I was working at full for a job at the time, and so like Bugsy was in there, but then like Oshie did that, McDonough,
We've done a little
was
bit.
Step on there
Preezy,
too,
Steps a
Breezy,
little bit. Preezy was big into it. Yeah,
yeah.
Osh, we had a good group of guys.
I did the workouts for like a month just to try it because I was like, I'd never tried the art before. And I was like, oh my God, there was a whole new level of just relearning how to work out. And it was intense for sure. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's when I remember seeing Bugsy on the route to his comeback there. You were
yeah.
sitting there with, who was the guy who used to run the ARP and he was doing some
Ra-
diet thing with you. I don't remember. He was teaching you some shake to make or something like that. I
oh,
forget his name.
Ras was
Not
running it.
Ras.
Uh, yeah, the guy from Arizona.
Yeah.
Mm, uh, oh,
I can't remember
Jesus.
his name
He's the
either.
guy that started the art machine.
Yep.
Too.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. But he has, I mean, actually, it's crazy. I still drink that shake today. It's like just 5 or 6 raw eggs with orange juice. Shake it
Hmm.
up and throw it down.
I'm
It's
making
right.
that
I'll
when
be
we're
honest.
done. I got a game tonight. I'm going to try it out.
I
Make sure
tried
they're
it
like good,
after
healthy eggs too.
I
All right.
tried it one time and I was like, this is not for me. I heard him telling me like, I'll give it a whirl. I'm still in decent shape. I'll just see. Maybe this is something I'll incorporate. I did it once and I was like, nah, I'm good.
I'll pass.
It's not that bad.
I
You get a
wasn't
good
I wasn't
shake.
dedicated anymore. Yeah.
It's like Rocky stuff with all the raw eggs, man.
Yeah, right
Ryan,
on.
now let's go on to kind of the closing thought here. And
Okay.
you're a couple years away. Let's say a couple guys. What do you say to them? Because you kind of mentioned us. Like I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. Right? You just kind of went with it. Right? What would you say now, looking back? Now that you've gone through the experience of being a pro for 11 years and doing what you did as a hockey player and transitioning back to everyday life, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, looking back, I mean, social media wasn't that big at the time. And I mean, most hockey guys, like you just kind of have your head down. You want to do, your work and your thing. But I would think just be more open to like when you're going to those team events or you're meeting partners and sponsors, be more, open to just meeting more people, because there's a lot of great people out there doing lots of good things. They'd be probably happy to have you on board. And I think it was funny. I went through an alumni transition program that Pat LaFontaine put together. There's about 10 of us. And they would bring in some different CEOs from Samsung and different things. And we're like, well, how do you fill out, um,
Job app.
yeah, job application? Because none of us were like, what the hell do we
Nobody
put
did
down
it.
a hockey player? We're like, what?
Right.
He's like, oh no. He's like, let's really like sit down for us and dissect some skills you have, right? You're like a team player, you show up on time, like these little
Work
intangibles,
hard. Yeah.
these that matter
Yeah.
for the business world, So he's like, we can teach you all the details, but it's more that character that you have that we really would like have you be part of the team, So I think a lot of us, when we get done, it's like, oh, this is all I know. But a lot of those skills we learned in hockey can translate very well into that business world. So, kind of keep an open mind and, follow that next passion, whatever it may be. And I think that's where myself, like with this, the foundation and learning more about mental health and the possibility to work with some current players, kind of ties it all together. And just through my own personal experiences, having some respect of, some of these guys. So it all, giving back some of that knowledge you have to help others is what it's about.
It's awesome. Carmi?
Yeah. No, thanks for coming on, Bugsy. I wanted to touch real quick on one more thing. You mentioned, JJ. What a guy that guy is. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize him a little more. Benny, I was fortunate enough to be with JJ in Ann Arbor and then on two World Junior teams. And
I knew him pretty well too. We interviewed him a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
I figured you did. And then he actually got me into the Deutschland Cup when I was in college. I went and played in that tournament as well. So like JJ has always been an incredible guy and human being, and his brother's kid trained at this same rink I was talking about. So I'd see him there all the time, and what a guy he was, and what a legacy he had for USA Hockey.
No doubt.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Well, Carmi, that's it. That's the show.
And that was my wrap.
Yeah, perfect. Ryan, thanks so much, man. Loved watching you. I love watching you play, man. You played it hard. You played it to the edge and over the edge sometimes, and it was always a pleasure to watch you and your time in the league, man. Thanks for coming on and doing this, and all the best to you and your family and all the things you're doing. We see you've got on there the hockeyishealing.org. People can go to that, check that out, and your foundation, which I absolutely love with the military stuff. So thanks a lot for your time. We appreciate you doing this.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys. All the best to you. Keep it going.
All right. We'll do. Ryan Malone, our guest. For Mike Carmen, Ben Holden saying thanks for watching episode 29 of When the Game Ends. We'll see you next time with an all-new edition.